All right, welcome everybody around the world. Welcome to all my subscribers. Just a very quick little short message here. Last night after doing my various videos, I went online because I've been doing videos about what Paul taught in terms of law and all of that, and how he supported Jewish law for Jews and Gentile law for Gentiles, which is in the book of Acts, where they do their great theological discussion and conclusions as to what laws people should follow. So anyways, after all that, I was just like, let me go online and take a look around, see if anybody else, in history at all, even till current day, is talking about this. Because, I was born and raised a Christian, and I never heard a single Christian or a church mention these things. So I was like, I'm giving the world credit. There must be other people out there that are aware of this because it's in the New Testament. Like it blatantly is. Like I am not wrong. Like it's right there. So I went and did, an online search on a huge main search engine. And in the first page results, like out of the millions of websites, out of the billions of people in the world, out of all the content that is searched throughout the planet when you do such a search, right? In the first page, you'd expect it to be crammed full of different books or people or historians talking about this in the book of Acts with the Jewish law and the Gentile law. But yet there was none. There was only one website, and it was just a person's website where they gave opinions, like their opinions on things. There was nobody out there. Okay. I'm imagining that if I went through, the thousands of search results, there might be some others. But in the top results, there was nothing matching. And in all fairness, there probably really is nobody out there, virtually speaking, nobody who's even aware of this basic element of New Testament theology. And I sit back and I look and I'm like, in my 20-year journey in ascertaining the true theology of Christianity, getting my book published, which is available on Amazon, by the way, like I keep saying, I keep questioning myself, am I right? All the evidence shows that I'm correct. Like my theology says, scripturally proven on the cover. Everything's got the scripture there to back it up as I say it. But I always second guess myself because it's like 99% of Christianity is just apostate from what the Bible actually, from what the New Testament even teaches. They're oblivious to it, which is even worse. Like it'd be different if they knew about it and then debated over it like they do with other theological things. But just on this one note alone, with the Jewish and Gentile law, it seems like everybody is utterly oblivious. And to me, this is alarming. But ironically, it helps affirm that God is leading me, because when I had my experience, and I don't even dwell on this, like I take it like the gospel truth that I did have an experience with God. Back when it happened 15 years ago, I really believed that it was real, and for like 10 years, right? But I just leave it up to God now for him to either confirm it, or I have to wait for my judgment day for him to confirm it. I'm not going to fuss over it. But one of the things he did relay to me back then was that everybody, I won't try to quote him anymore, but that everybody's gotten it wrong. And I remember at the time when he told me that, I was shocked and I was taken aback because, I was a fervent Christian with my beliefs and this and that there. He wasn't saying Christianity is wrong, but he says that the way that he said it, I won't quote him if it was him genuinely saying it to me, but he relayed that everybody had gotten it wrong. He said nobody has it right. And that blew my mind because I had, pride, Christian pride, that I had it right. So, whether that was God saying that to me or not, it just really rings home true right now, because very clearly the New Testament teaches that about Gentile and Jewish law, and very clearly everybody in the world, except maybe a few people, are absolutely oblivious that it's even in the New Testament. Where are the churches teaching this? If the people had been aware that it was in there, Christian churches wouldn't believe and teach the things they've been teaching for 1,500 plus years. It's truly baffling, but it only strangely confirms what I feel that God did tell me those years ago. And I'm not fussed about focusing on whether God told me stuff or not. The fact of the matter and the evidence shows that people today, the world, and even Christians, are oblivious. And that's just on the matter of Jewish and Gentile law. But that's a good example, right? The next thing is the Trinity, right? If you look at the demographics for religion and religion breakdown, Trinitarianism is actually, I think, increased. So only by a bit. But I used to always say in my videos that it's about 95 or 98% of Christians who are Trinitarian. There's about 100 and something million non-Trinitarians. And you also have others who don't ascribe to either bracket. And it just gets a little complicated there, right? But it basically only a couple 100 million non-Trinitarians in the world. And, these are just by polls. I mean, there could be more, you know what I mean? Not everybody goes out and announces what they believe to the world. So, and who knows where they get all these poll statistics from, right? So there's basically a couple or a few 100 million non-Trinitarians in the world. But looking at the statistics just now before my video, just to fact check things, is actually at 99% of Christians, according to the polls at least, or however they do it, are Trinitarian. Now, again, Trinitarianism, that's not biblical, right? Whether by Old Testament or New Testament, it's not. And that's just another glaring example at how everybody has gotten it wrong, right? And the myth of the blood sacrifice of Jesus, another element as to how everybody has gotten it wrong. 100%. Well, I'll give credit. Maybe there's a few churches out there who wised up, but 100% of Christian denominations believe in the blood sacrifice of Jesus. Right. So on so many critical core theological levels, was Jesus God or not? This relates to the first commandment. If he's not God, then it would be idolatry to portray him as God, right? You're not supposed to portray God with any image as any creature or man. Even the book of Romans denounces portraying God as a man and says if you do that, you have a dark heart and you're a fool, and you're worshiping the creature rather than the creator. I mean, you have the Trinity concept, then you have the concept of, was Jesus a blood atonement sacrifice? Was he an atonement at all for us? And then the third theological pillar is the law. What law should we follow? These are three of the most important things. And the fourth one is how you're saved. Because as I've revealed, there isn't a single church out there that teaches you have to reform, that Reformation is the gospel, that Reformation is the baptism. Now, some churches and denominations out there do teach either directly to reform or a vague concept like Reformation. But I have searched and I cannot find a single denomination or sub-denomination that actually knows and teaches that Reformation is the gospel and the baptism. They just know because it's common sense that you should stop doing sins, and they teach stuff like that, right? And that you should become a new person, a better person. And that's good, right? So thankfully, but generally speaking, in terms of doctrine, like if you were to list the doctrinal points out, those four key things, like the biggest theological things, everybody has gotten wrong, right? And all the evidence for who's right, let me just grab the book, it's right here, right? All the evidence is right here in the book. I got like 200 videos on my channel for free. The book is $23. The evidence is all there. If you don't believe me, go fact check it. Right? Look at the original translation, which is the only thing I use for my systematic theology and studies. Don't pull up these church translations and new versions that alter words. But it's astounding. It's it's alarming that so many people have it wrong. And the reason why I focused on the Gentile Jewish law at the beginning is because this is the easiest thing to prove. You just open up the book of Acts, I think it's chapter 15, and I think it's like chapter 20 or 21, but I have videos on it and it's in my books, right? That is clear as day because they're literally having the theological discussion on who should follow what, and they give their conclusion. There's no debate there. I mean, people could debate for 1,000 years again over the Trinity and Jesus being a sacrifice and how you're saved. Right? Christians have argued about that for like 2,000 years. The point is, nobody can argue about the Jewish Gentile law thing because it's right there verbatim on the pages in Acts. Okay, so that's just a good example to use here to show that everybody is oblivious. And that's a big important thing because unless you're Jewish, you shouldn't be following Jewish law at all. That means you should be following the first commandment and the second commandment, as Jesus said, for everybody on the planet. But aside from that, we shouldn't be following any of the Jewish law or the rest of the commandments. The commandments and laws and ordinances have principles of righteousness, which you fulfill by loving God and loving everybody. This is what Jesus said, right? But we should not be out there following the Jewish law, following the Jewish Sinai 10 commandments, because that's a covenant for Israel and not for Gentiles, right? And what should Gentiles follow then? Well, yes, the law of Jesus, which honors the two greatest commands and fulfills all the law for Gentiles, but also it's explicitly told to us that we have a set of Gentile laws to follow. And this is not something insignificant. It's important. A lot of Gentiles are actually breaking these laws, and they may not realize it, or they may not think it's that important that they can just be forgiven by Jesus, whatever they dogmatically think. But everybody's oblivious to that these laws are laid out. And those Gentile laws are the Gentile laws in the Tanakh that Judaism has always taught and that have been in the Tanakh since Genesis, binding upon everybody on the planet, including Abraham and everybody all the way up to Moses. Okay, and they're still binding on everybody else. This is what the Bible teaches. This is what Judaism has always taught and stood strong by. And yet Christianity, I'm a Christian, but Christianity has just been oblivious to it. It just blows my mind. But like I said, and I'll wrap up the video right now, it only reaffirms that God must surely be leading me to bring the light of the truth to the world, right? Whether the end of days is coming this year, next year, or whatever, or not, the truth needs to be spread because it got polluted, right? And Paul warned that would happen. He said the end will not come lest the falling away into apostasy come first, where the Christians become people of lawlessness, right? So anyways, folks, it just blows my mind, but what can I say? So if you want proof that I'm right, go read Acts, right? Go check it. I made videos yesterday that touch on these things. So if you want proof, go check it out, right? Anyways, take care, folks, and God bless.